Arifureta, From Commonplace to World's Strongest is an isekai action fantasy light novel written by Hakumai Ro under the pen name Chuni Suki. This is my mostly spoilerless review of Volume 1 of the series, as translated by J Novel Club. So before I get into the meat of the review, I'm going to quickly jump to the afterwards where the author apologises for being a beginner writer. They asked to forgive things such as half-assed setting, overall lack of plot and general randomness. I added things as they popped into my mind. I'm unsure how much editing or changes were made from the web novel. I'm sure you'll tell from the review, but all of this really does show in the book. So given the amount of isekai series out there now, what separates this one from the rest? The hope from both the title of the series along with the Volume 1 synopsis makes it sound like we're in for the long haul, with our main character Hajime starting out with the worst of the worst compared to the rest of the cast. Not the most uncommon start. Hajime is fairly level-headed, although somewhat cliché otaku. Potentially the author projecting themselves, but his decision making is solid and never really felt like I wanted to reject what he was trying to do. Out of all the core characters, pretty much is the only one I really ended up liking by the end. Fortunately, most of the book is from his viewpoint though. We got a pretty reasonable introduction to the other members of the core classroom cast, numbering just a handful, but halfway through the volume I just really didn't care about any of the rest of them at all. Anytime the viewpoint shifted to the classmates, I was just kind of really wanting it to go back to Hajime. It's just so hard to care about the viewpoint when the book really doesn't give them anything interesting to work with. One character in particular, Kaori, is right from the start her reasons for being interested in Hajime are really, really weak, but the author pushes their relationship really, really hard. There's definitely a lot of things that could and probably will be built upon in the future volumes between these guys, but in this volume the classmates are practically supporting roles and they really don't add anything to this book. Speaking of the overall plot, the original reason for pulling these kids over to this world is to save the kingdom. I don't know if this series plans on following up with that at all, or if it's just an excuse to get in that isekai fantasy setting. I don't really recall any mention of this reason really again at all, and at the end of the book I pretty much forgot about it completely. Even thinking about it now, I don't really want them to focus on it at all, because it just doubles up with the bland unoriginalness along with those classmates I talked about. For the majority of the book, you really get some alright RPG world-building elements straight from the get-go. Beyond the very basics, which get explained to the characters themselves in like a really game-esque fashion, you do discover along with the characters how the world is meant to be, and you don't just kind of get told like, oh, they can do this now. You do find out with them. The introduction of new skills and abilities in the first instances turns out really, really cool and is interesting. Throughout the whole book, you do get introduced to all these new skills. Although the later on ones, some of them do start to get glossed over, and there are some skills and stuff which just genuinely do seem kind of uninteresting. By the late second half, nothing that new really gets thrown in, and after the first few discoveries, it doesn't supplement any of this with any great complex strategy. And a lot of situations get resolved by like some unknown skill reveal, which you weren't really told about as the reader. The book also features some very mature themes. I really hesitate to call it romance. I really didn't expect it considering how the book was, and personally it feels pretty out of place to the rest of the book, and I'm not exactly a fan. That being said, you do have to bear in mind that the age of the characters in this are high school, so they're like 17 years old. And if I do think back to when I was 17 and I was like a nerdy kid, then I can't really blame kind of some of the stuff that does happen. But for those who do want a bit of like mature, ecchi stuff, they got you covered. There's like a whole segment as well as some risque art. The book really shows that it came from a web novel. It's like, there's a battle section, there's a classroom section, let's jump to here, there's another short little battle section, back to the classroom mates, and then there's some weird like mature section. There's some sections which could have probably been edited a bit better to alleviate this, and some of them are, but some of them are just really small and really jumpy like you'd expect from a web novel. This doubles up with the time jumps in between each of these sections. By the end of the book, I'm really not sure how much time has passed since they first entered this world. Like, I know there's some sections which do say, oh, a week has passed or a couple of days have passed, but by the end, I have no idea how long they've been in here. If it's been months, a year, it feels like a really long time, but I really don't know. So, in conclusion, this first volume has some pretty good bits, but a fair amount of it does feel pretty flat to me. When you're having those moments of discovery and learning with Hajime, it feels really, really good and you really enjoy those sections. But beyond sections with Hajime and one other character, the rest of the classroom mates especially feel like a complete waste of time, and I just wanted to get by those sections really, really quickly. When we finally get more sections with them and some of the characters tie back together, I feel like those classroom mates are just going to be really, really annoying. The title of the series, along with this Volume 1 synopsis, really did lead me astray with what I thought I was going to be reading. and I'm really unsure of how things are going to keep trending, especially with the pace that this volume did have. You can really tell the author's a beginner, with the random sections which I talked about before really being the worst of it. I'm going to remain hopeful though, and I really hope that some of those good parts really will trend forward with future volumes. Thanks for listening, and until next time.